Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I am Violette Ayala, the founder of FemCity, and you're joining us today for our live class. I have invited two of our amazing global members to join us today as our featured experts. Today, we're going to dive into pivoting, which I know everyone is overusing that word. We've used it like for 2.5 years now. But the reason why we're going to go ahead and just have that conversation today is because we still have members that are still looking to pivot into new areas, new additional revenue streams. Some have experienced a level of exhaustion from pivoting all this time. So perhaps they're looking to pivot even grander and starting a new business or new opportunities as well. So I have invited Stacey and Regena also to join. If you are joining us live, feel free to go ahead and ask questions. We're here for you. If you are joining us in the replay later on, you can always reach out to us and continue the conversation. We are here collaboratively and collectively to help you maneuver the last couple of months of the year and to pivot strongly so that you have a really strong ending to 2022 and also a very successful start to 2023, which I cannot believe we're actually even talking about. We already have some love coming through from our Facebook Fems. So let's go ahead and dive in. Regena, we're going to go in alphabetical order. So Regena, if you could just share one or two sentences about your expertise and what you do. And then my question to you is, what is your best advice for our femmes that are looking to pivot even more? And I feel like a lot of them just want to start something fresh and new, or perhaps just go in a different angle altogether.
Thank you, Violet. I love this question. And I love that I get to share with Stacey because I just really feel so grateful to be part of FemCity. We have such an amazing organization and community. And I really, really appreciate this question. I'll share quickly about myself. I teach concepts and techniques of peace and mindfulness, which I feel is so important in this life and especially around this topic. And the reason is because life happens and it means that we get to navigate challenges and we get to still show up and we get to still do our businesses or do another business. And so what I found, the thing that helps me the most when it comes to pivoting is actually having self-compassion and trusting my intuition. And I'll give a quick example. Even today, just the call I just completed right before hopping on today's live stream was one of those situations where I wasn't planning it. I was doing my purpose. I was doing what I'm doing in the world, and things just show up in life. And I believe the more we can just be compassionate with ourselves and just gentle, things will show up in your life for you. And it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be you pushing and constantly hustling like the good old days. So this idea of pivot, I feel, is really a gift, and just honoring what comes to you and being able to mold something out of, lemons out of lemonade, right? Or the other way around, lemonade out of lemons. Like pivot is learning how to make something work for you. So I think it can really be a gift if we give ourselves the chance to see it that way.
Yeah, and I love the mindset shift, and I'm actually taking notes right now as well. And I was thinking as I was listening to you share is, it's interesting that I feel that when doors continuously close, it's a great opportunity for us to look to see what avenues are opening. And that happens all the time. So whether you have a job and you've had it for most of your career, but all of a sudden you're feeling like, the doors are closing. Maybe you didn't get that promotion or you didn't move forward, or maybe you have this company that you've had for a couple of years and, you're constantly getting those doors closing. But when I always feel like when those things happen, there's always a door that's opening that you may not even have noticed. It's just so silent sometimes. It's so quiet, but it just means that there's something greater and bigger for you in another avenue. So I was writing down the notes, and then I started thinking about questions, like, if you were in that place, what kind of questions you would ask yourself. And I would say, ask yourself the questions of like, what's working, right? So what do you have that's currently working for you? What's not working for you? This could be revenue stream. This could be a job that you have. This could be a company. What fills your cup still? Because I think that's also part where I've seen a lot of our members that things used to fill their cup, before the pandemic or during the pandemic, but now it no longer fills their cup. And then I always find beauty and blessings when people are giving you the confirmation that you need. So sometimes we're sitting on the sidelines and we're thinking about writing a book, or maybe we're thinking about going in another direction. And then out of the blue, someone will just say, you know what, you should write a book, or you should go here, or here's this job opening that I saw, or here's this business that I think would be great for you. Like sometimes we receive those messages from other people. And if we're not in that mindset, like you shared right now, to receive that information, we might dismiss it. But sometimes that little secret, I mean, the reason why I started FemCity is it kind of just quietly appeared, right? It just showed up. And I just happened to listen and then continue to listen. So I love that advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Stacey, share a little bit about yourself as well. And then the same question for you. What's your best advice for those that, I hate to say the word pivot, but for those that are really looking to say, okay, you know what, I want to kind of finish off the year and prepare for a really great 2023 and pivot in the way that makes sense for me financially and emotionally too.
I love that. I mean, I think I have to say pivot is one word that always makes me grin, because I used to be a huge Friends fan. And every time I think about it, I say it just the way Ross would say it. So I just scream it a little bit in my head. But that said, so I am an executive coach. I work with busy executives and business owners. I help them take stock of where they are. I help them with their self-confidence and sort of that executive gravitas, if you will. I help them define their relationships and networks and figure out what wealth actually means to them, and does it align with their passion and their purpose. I think for me, pivoting, the best advice I can give, so I've been a business owner for about 7 years, small business owner. I pivoted about 2 years ago. And I think for me, the best advice is, it shouldn't be a negative word. I think the mindset that you have around it, it should be kind of an evolution of who you are. We're getting sort of more mature. We're learning as we grow. We're learning as we go. We're meeting new people. We're getting exposed to so many different types of not only things via social media, which is kind of instantaneous, but just the world, especially in this last 2 years, has opened up, right? And so everybody, I feel, is more collaborative, is more transparent, is more authentic. And that vulnerability that's coming through so naturally from everyone that's going through a struggle that may or may not have led to a pivot, or I like to say an evolution, they're sharing. And so I do think there are so many lessons learned from that we can take forth. I think personally for me, what has worked the best is, and it's a little bit along the lines of what both of you have said, as I've grown and got more comfortable in my own skin as a woman, a wife, a business owner, a friend, and everything, I want different things for and from my business. And so I think that when your business strategy is aligned to your personal values, that's just magic happens. And I do think sometimes we pivot from desperation. The sales aren't coming, the people aren't coming. I tried this marketing thing. It's not, going the way that I can. But I do think that managing those expectations and coming from a place of strategy, what worked, what can I keep, right? What is someone else doing that I can learn from? Are there any gaps in my competencies? Like before you make the pivot, like do a SWOT analysis, right? So SWOT just stands for strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. Don't mean to sound really businessy, but this is your business, right? This is the time that you spend away from your loved ones. And so I think doing it from a place of love and gratitude that you have an opportunity to kind of create something different or enhance something that you have, and not from a place of low energy and lack of, makes you so much stronger.
Yeah, I love that. And so I was taking notes also. You reminded me of this podcast that I just listened to yesterday, actually, the Goop podcast with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, I love
that podcast. And she had an author, and it's escaping me now, an author of this book that I made a note to buy, so I have to look for it. But they were talking about the evolution of brands and how women are just more gifted and more talented when it comes to, those pivoting and that kind of, maybe it's because we use intuition, or maybe it's because society tells us it's okay to use intuition. Maybe it's just not spoken about as much with men. But you reminded me of that podcast. And also she mentioned, Blockbuster, and, thinking about brands that didn't pivot and brands that didn't evolve. Like you were saying, like, if you just think about evolving every year, and that's an exercise that we do with FemCity. We review to see like what's working, what's not working, where is the money showing up, where the opportunity is showing up that makes sense with our values. Blockbuster is one. And in comparison, I remember Netflix when it used to be like this disc. that, you know, they'd mail to you, and then you had to like return it within a certain period of time before digital streaming was even a thing. And so you reminded me so much of that. And also, I love that you mentioned the value system, right? Because that should always be connected, and because it makes it easier. So when you connect and you say, does it align with my values? I love that point, because when it does, it flows effortlessly, or rather more effortlessly. It seems to just be like an easier kind of way to look at business or careers from that perspective. So I love that. I don't see any questions just yet. I do see a lot watching, so that's really great. All right, so we're going to wrap up. These are really short and quick and to the point, which I love. Regena, final advice that you have for those that are looking to finally kind of brush off all the things that were holding them back and embrace the things that are going to move them forward when it comes to pivoting. Final advice that you have for them.
Well, in listening to everything that we spoke about today, it reminds me of something I heard a couple years ago. This was like 10 years ago. I was at a workshop, a retreat, something like that. And the lady who's, you know, a friend of mine, she said something about that feeling that you have in your gut. And she said that same feeling, if you just take a moment and you feel it and you give yourself a moment to recognize that feeling, that's the same feeling as excitement. So it can be fear or it can be excitement. And I feel that's the exact same thing with pivot. It can be you know, crap, what am I going to do with this? Right. And like diving down into fear and worry and anxiety and overwhelm and all the things, creating more stress. Or it can be like springtime. Like, how can I be excited about what's to come? And truthfully, I believe pivots are opportunities to grow and to evolve, you know, like we've been talking about, and innovate. I mean, if you're not growing, you're dying. So if you just think of it in a very simple terms, is there resistance there? If there is, working on what's creating that resistance, and then working with a coach or, you know, a consultant, someone that can help dig out the weeds and actually support you in creating a beautiful garden. Because really that's what a pivot is. It's an opportunity to create something new.
Yeah. And I love that you brought in spring cleaning, because if we just change our mindset and we view it as spring cleaning, in essence, it is removing the things that no longer serve us, right? Like items or clothes. And then it gives us the opportunity to organize, to look to see what is working, looking to see like how we can layer that with other things that we feel connected to. So I love that comparison to spring cleaning, because I get excited with spring cleaning, but I'm sure a couple years ago, I wasn't so excited, but now I'm like, oh, it's, you know, it gives me an opportunity to allow new energy to come through, but I can only get that if I'm pushing the things out that no longer serve me. Love that. All right, let's go to Stacey. And Stacey, by the way, I meant to, I love that you brought up a SWOT analysis. I love that as an activity or homework to do. And for those that are FemCity members, we do have a class that is all about how to create a SWOT analysis for your business. So if you head over to the FemCity library, that is available for free for our members. And that was taught by Professor Dion Dean, who's a retail professor locally here in Miami. All right, so Stacey, final advice that you have for our Fems.
I love that. I think that my final advice is, I think a lot of times when we have to make a decision like this that seems so big and so intimidating sometimes, because you've put so much blood, sweat, and tears into whatever that endeavor was, there's a lot of fear attached to that. I think that if you come at it from a very objective space and kind of really use your numbers and your data and make a decision quickly, like don't linger over it, and a year from now, you're still kind of pondering over it. I think the other word of advice was, don't scrap what you've already done. You know, we're creatures, it's either feast or famine sometimes. It's either binge worthy or not. But I do think that all of the work that you've done, there are probably about 60, 70% of it that is amazing and that can be retooled. And so I think go over and create and find what is valuable that you can reuse in your new endeavor. And I also think this is an interesting one for me. This is something that I did before I started my new business. It wasn't really new, I just evolved. I actually reached out to my favorite customers who had become really good friends. And I did like a focus group. And I asked them like really hard questions about my business and what they loved about me and what I could do better and like what happened over the 5 years they had known me in my previous business. And the rich amount of, one, I got so much love, but two, the insights that they gave me allowed me to sort of catapult into my new coaching endeavor about 2 years ago. And I cannot thank them enough. And also Brene Brown for, being vulnerable and being courageous at the same time. But go to your best people, right? Or even somebody that's super, you would think hard on you, and ask them, like, what happened? What am I doing wrong? And the data and the richness that you're going to get from those conversations may well be the thing that is your next big, great idea.
I love that. I love that. All right. So just to recap what you shared, numbers and data. So look to see what is working financially also. And even like if you have Google Analytics, or if you have a software that does capture the analytics for you, look to see. I know I always look at that to see, like, am I addressing my friends, my followers, and also our members and where they are at life. So I love that. And then the focus group tip. That's great. Look back to see, reach out to those that have worked with you in the past, or I would even say even those that you hope to work with in the future, and kind of create that focus group and give them the opportunity to share with you where you could be of value in their life. Absolutely love that. Great notes. I actually wrote notes all over my notebook from our conversation. Thank you so much, Regena. For those that would like to connect with you to follow your journey, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, I created a new quiz that I would love people to learn about. And if it serves them, would love to hear about it. It's relieveyourstressnow.com. And there's some techniques on there, custom techniques, that once you do the quiz, you'll get an opportunity to hear what you can do to reduce your stress. And I wanted to also add, if I can quickly, I love what Stacey just shared. And something that I think FemCity does really, really well is actually celebrating the wins. And I think that's really important in pivoting too, is like, what's that saying? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Like, actually, like, recognize how far you've come. And then I think that also separates the fear of the pivot, because you take the good and you move on and you just carry that into the next endeavor.
Yeah. Love that. Lots of homework pieces here, which is great. That's a great activity to do. Stacey, what is the best way for femmes to go ahead and follow your journey as well?
Absolutely. So Evolution Executive Coaching is my handle, both on Instagram. You can also find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, just my name. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. That's where my people hang out. And I just want to give a shout out, Violet. All of the stuff you mentioned on our training site is impeccable, and I've used so much of it. And also last month, I was a keynote speaker at the Boca del Rey chapter. And one of the things I made everybody do is to give themselves a pat on the back, because you're right, Regena. I think we do forget to thank ourselves and have grace with ourselves. And FemCity does an amazing job of bringing it back to gratitude and grace and hope. So that's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. At the end of the day, if we can just do one thing today, just take a look at all the amazing things you've done, either the course of the year or a week or a day. And if you're saying, I haven't done anything, you're here, you're watching us. So that's something great, right? I had a friend of mine who used to be a huge wealth management person on Wall Street, and graduated from the top of her class, top of the school, all that stuff. And she said sometimes it was just making her bed that just made her feel good. She accomplished something that day. So sometimes it's something simple like just smiling at your neighbor that you can just track as a win, or someone smiling at you. So just the little things really do matter. And if you can start from there, then you can just build that up, and it really does help change your mindset. So thank you so much for ending that with so much love and gratitude and positivity. I love that. For those that would like to learn more about FemCity, head over to FemCity.com. We do have that SWAT class there available, and other classes and courses. And of course, then you get access to our local events. And Regena and Stacey, thank you so much for spending your time with us this afternoon. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies. Thanks for watching.